What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing, back at you again. Today's topic: Man Down. Did the underestimation of Crawford by Derek James lead to the defeat of Errol Spence Jr.? Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life before riches, huh? That life before riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glazzy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
Okay, boxing fans, we're going to talk some boxing, so let's chop it up. So today we're going to be talking about Derek James and his boxing philosophy and boxing wisdom. Now, I'm not going to do a lot of talking in this video. We're going to go straight to the videotape and get the receipts. And so, we're going to let Derek James expound on his boxing wisdom and knowledge in his own words from his own mouth. So let's continue. Let's go to the videotape and see what we have. Let's take a look at this.
How do you see Ugas, you being a trainer? Like, do you see him as the biggest challenge of Errol's career thus far?
I think that I'm gonna say like this. I think that he is because he is a very skillful fighter. He's a phenomenal good counterpuncher. He's a guy that tries to set you up. He's a guy who's very sneaky. He's very cunning. And you just have to be intelligent and in tune with everything he's doing, opposed to having the idea of what you want to do. Because what you want to do is not what he may present. You have to be able to react to what he's doing to you and take what he's giving you.
What do you think makes a difference in the fight, or what Errol can't do in order for Ugas to get momentum in this fight?
I think that momentum changes from one shot. So you can have momentum, but one shot could change the whole fight. One big shot from Errol. I mean, Ugas has 12 knockouts, so he does have knockout power. But I think that Errol just, his physicality and his ability.
Okay, let's hold it there for a second. So there you saw Derek James said that Ugas has 12 knockouts, so he does have knockout power. I just want to make a point of that. I want you, to keep that in mind what he just said about Ugas having knockout power with 12 knockouts. That's all the knockouts that Ugas had in his whole career was 12 knockouts, and Derek James is saying that he has knockout power. So let's continue.
His desire to want to be great would change a lot of things.
You think just overall he's just too much for Ugas?
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you never know.
All right.
Okay, so you saw that. Now, if you notice, Derek James is speaking very kindly about Ugas, who's about to challenge. This was leading up to the Spence Ugas fight, which was the fight previous to the Spence Crawford fight. So they asked him about Ugas, and he's going on talking about how good Ugas is. That Ugas has 12 knockouts and he has knockout power, right? And so as you can see, when he's talking about any fighters, that's gonna face Spence, besides Terence Crawford, he speaks reasonably, and rationally, more or less, okay. But let's see what he says next. Let's continue.
Who's the better puncher when it goes down? Crawford got 10 knockouts in a row, but Spence looks like the heavy-handed, natural.
10 knockouts in a row against who?
Some solid guys along the way. Sean Porter.
To be fair, that's not
Oh,
Sean
man.
Porter.
Sean Porter's daddy said I was going to stop the fight before the fight. Didn't he say that? So what does that mean?
I think
No. What that meant was he was showing Sean that he's still the boss. There was a power struggle going on in the ring. And what did Sean do when his dad did stop the fight? What did he do? He retired and didn't tell him. Asked him when the last time he talked to his dad. The night they was in the corner. He had not spoken to him anymore.
So Derek,
So there was a power struggle going on. The father wanted to prove him that he still was the boss. I'm just saying he hadn't faced the same competition, same level of competition.
but are you kind of also saying that Crawford's power is a little bit overstated?
I mean, I don't know. I never seen him fight like 2 or 3 times. I don't watch a lot of boxing. I do not watch boxing. But I'll start watching him when we start training for the fight.
Okay, so there we go. So now we saw when he was talking about Ugas, Derek James was able to speak rationally and discuss the attributes of Ugas, and he was very kind to Ugas. But when they asked him about Crawford, you notice what he said: 10 knockouts against who? Now we got to keep in mind that Crawford, those 10 knockouts, 7 of those knockouts was at the welterweight division when he moved up to welterweight and immediately started knocking out the fighters in welterweight. So far, he has knocked out every fighter he has faced at the welterweight division, which was 8 to this point. Spence being the 8th one, and he has knocked out Spence as well. But this was before the fight, obviously. So Derek James was saying 10 knockouts against Sue because Sean Zattel, shout out to Sean Zattel, because Sean Zattel asked him about Crawford's knockout power and his knockout streak, which is 10 in a row. And Derek James said 10 knockouts against who? So as you can see, it's very difficult for some reason when it comes to Crawford. Derek James just cannot speak rationally because if you're gonna praise Ugas as having knockout power with only 12 knockouts in his entire career, and Terence Crawford's knockout streak is almost as long as all of the knockouts that Ugas had in his whole career, and what's going on? I mean, why is it that you can't see see the fact that Terence Crawford has 10 knockouts and that's a dangerous. Why can't you give him his flowers? In other words, but Derek James just seems unable to do that for some reason. When it comes to Crawford, he just can't do it. He says 10 knockouts against who? You got to keep in mind that Crawford has 40 fights with 31 knockouts at this point, including Spence. If you don't count Spence's 30 knockouts that he had during this conversation, this was before the actual fight that we saw on July 29th. So again, it seems that when it comes to Crawford, Derek James just can't be rational. He just starts capping. He starts talking, really irrational, basically. Disrespectful. Basically, dismissing any of the things that people say or any of the advantages that Crawford might have. So, but let's continue.
Did you, by chance, listen to the comments that Bob said after the fight about making a potential fight with Errol and Terence?
Yeah, I've heard of them. I mean, I don't watch a lot of media. I don't watch,
Yeah.
but people send me stuff. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Aaron, commented that if the PBC and you guys or Danny, whoever wins, really wants to make a big pay-per-view fight, a real big pay-per-view fight, they have to come and fight Terence, and that's Errol has been avoiding a fight with Terence. He doesn't want to fight him because what we saw with Kell would happen with Errol, and Bob said, it would happen in around the same time.
I'm talking about, I don't even know. I have no idea what he's talking about because like I said, I didn't hear him say that. But I mean, man, listen, I think they just want. They want something. We have Danny Garcia in front of us, who, as I stated before, even if you add Kell Brook on his resume, still doesn't add up to what Danny Garcia has done. So what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying, if you think about this, Danny Garcia has the deepest resume other than Manny Pacquiao. This is in boxing, period. And as a champion, I'll say on the pound for pound list, he has the weakest resume in boxing.
Terence, do you feel?
Yes, I feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna get into weak fault because we don't even know that. But it's two different. It's apples and oranges. Mm-hmm. One guy he proved himself. One guy has been, they tell you who he is. They tell you who his opponents were because you didn't know what's the guy named the Russian kid.
The guy that he fought before?
The Russian kid that
fought Terence before, a Mean Machine?
Yeah. No, not that guy, but the other one, the first one. Who won the title for him.
Oh, Postol.
Yeah. We didn't know who he was.
Mm-hmm.
They told us who he was. Then when he fought the other guy after that, to unify, we didn't know who that guy was.
Jeff
They
Horn.
no, not Horn.
Mm-hmm.
The other guy, the African guy
Oh,
from France.
Dongo.
Yeah, we had no idea who he was.
Mm-hmm.
Still don't know who he was.
Okay, again, you saw Derek James talk about Danny Garcia. This was, after Danny Garcia fight with Spence. And you see that he's speaking very glowingly of Danny Garcia's record, right? And he says that Danny Garcia has the deepest record other than Manny Pacquiao, right? Uh, now, again, uh, Danny Garcia campaigned at welterweight, at junior welterweight and welterweight, right? He didn't do much at welterweight because he got the title through an elimination. He lost it to Sean Porter immediately after that. And all of his fights at welterweight, including the one with Spence, Danny Garcia has lost. Okay, so this is the same Danny Garcia he's talking about. Now, Danny Garcia did great at 140 pounds before he moved up to welterweight. But again, Crawford was also at welterweight, right? And uh, junior welterweight, where Danny Garcia was, the same weight division, and Crawford was undisputed at that division. He became undisputed, with Danny Garcia never even came close to that. So to say that Danny Garcia's resume is deeper than anybody else except for Manny Pacquiao is a stretch. Okay, but here we have Derek James again talking about that, and then when he talks about Crawford, what does he say? Right? He says, we're talking about Crawford was undisputed 140 pounds, right? He says that Crawford, even if you add Kell Brook to his resume, it still doesn't add up to what Danny Garcia has done. And that he has the weakest resume of all the champions. Right? So this is what Derek James is saying. So again, when none of that makes any sense when you look at the facts. But when it comes to Crawford, for some reason, Derek James just cannot be rational, when he's talking about Crawford for some reason. He just, he gives a compliment here and then takes it back in the next sentence when he's talking about Crawford. When he's talking about anybody else but Crawford, he's speaking glowing terms and he's very kind to these people like Danny Garcia, Ugas, But when it comes to Crawford, for some reason, Derek James just, can't be rational. But let's continue.
Well, let me go back to the. Do you feel like somebody who switches stances, goes orthodox, southpaw? Do you feel like that?
Hey, let me stop that shit. That's some dumb shit. When you listen, when you boxing, that's some new shit, right? Listen, man. Okay, whatever, man. Nobody care about that stuff, man. You for real? The fuck? Kell Brooks switched up, but he only did it twice. Most of these guys try that crap, man. Listen, man. Like this, if you prepare for it, what's your benefit? I mean, we prepare. Listen, man, that's some dumb shit, man. Listen, boxing is about technique, not about more. Boxers today are more about athleticism.
Okay.
Athleticism, not about skill and technique. We're not saying Berlin wasn't athletic. We're saying he won with his skills. See what I'm saying? These guys win with their they win with their athleticism, their speed, their quickness. When, like I said, some guys who have fought, when they lost their athleticism, they start getting knocked out, just like regular people.
Okay, more wisdom from Derek James. That's the boxing philosophy and the boxing wisdom of Derek James. According to Derek James, switching, orthodox to a southpaw stance or vice versa is dumb shit. So, again, and as you saw, just to note, as you saw in the fight with Spence and Crawford, Crawford switched to southpaw and stayed southpaw the whole fight. Now, Crawford is a natural right-hander who has been, has learned how to fight southpaw, and we saw him switch to southpaw in this fight with Errol Spence, and beat Errol Spence as a southpaw, even though Errol Spence is a natural southpaw and Crawford is not. So here, Derek James is saying that switching is dumb shit, but the very thing he calls dumb shit is what Crawford used to beat Spence by switching to southpaw because he knew that Spence hadn't fought many southpaws. Okay, so there it is. So that's just more wisdom from Derek James. But again, as you can see, when he said dumb shit, he's talking about Crawford switching because everybody know Crawford. They call Crawford the best switcher in the business. But Derek James doesn't see that as a advantage or anything like that. He sees it as dumb shit, even though Crawford used his switching to beat Errol Spence in the fight, that we saw on July 29th. But let's continue.
Now, they kept comparing Spence versus Porter to Crawford versus Porter. Obviously, two different eras, two different times, years, and everything like that. What did you see in that fight from Crawford versus Porter that you guys went like, you know what, we should have done that during that fight against Porter in 2019? Or work on?
Well, Porter's father stopped the fight. And then I didn't even watch the fight. I saw the fight live, and I was watching as a fan of boxing. And so I really haven't even watched it like that. I haven't watched the fight yet.
Since you just said that as a fan of boxing, take yourself out of the equation. You're not in Spence's corner. You're not. You're just watching it. You're enthralled because it is Spence versus Crawford. July 29th, what will you be doing minus the trainer?
Hey man, I'll be just focused on being successful, keeping what I've been doing. I mean, like, I'm fighting for everything that I've been building. Just like Errol's doing what he's doing, I'm doing the exact same thing also. So we're keeping this thing going, keeping the train rolling, man.
Okay, again, when they asked him about Crawford, the fight with Crawford and Porter, and anything that Derek James could learn from that they should do in this fight with Spence and Crawford. Again, this is the build up to the fight. This is before the fight actually happened with Spence and Crawford. So they're asking Derek James these questions about how he's going to approach the fight with Crawford, and they made a comparison between the way Crawford fought Porter, and they're asking, well, is there anything you saw in that Crawford Porter fight that you can use, and what did he say? Derek James said, no, his father stopped that fight. So again, he's not giving Crawford any credit for the stopping. He's saying that Porter's father, Kenny Porter, was going to stop the fight. So again, and he basically he didn't see anything that he could really learn or put to use in his fight, with Spence that was coming up with Crawford and Spence. So again, when it comes to Crawford, Derek James just can't be rational for some reason. I don't know what it is. And maybe I don't know if it's me. I mean, you people out there can tell me. I mean, is it me or is it? I mean, what's going on with this? He just cannot see anything positive about Crawford or say anything positive about Crawford without saying something negative immediately after that, or not saying anything positive at all. So again, this is the wisdom and the boxing philosophy and wisdom of Derek James. So let's continue.
But we heard why you're going to win. I think we want to hear from you. What is a victory, though, on the 29th mean to you specifically? We know it comes as being undisputed. That would also mean you'd be the first fighter to be undisputed in 2 different weight classes. What would a victory on the 29th mean to you?
Well, like I said, that piggybacks on what I said before. It shows that I'm the greatest fighter of this era. No man have captured undisputed in 2 different weight classes.
Teofimo did last week.
Teofimo definitely wasn't. He was lineal, correction, but he wasn't undisputed. Sorry, Derek. Sorry, Derek. I'm trying it.
Okay, so there it is again. So they asked, what it means for Crawford to become undisputed 2 times if he was to win the fight, and Crawford is going, answering the question, And out of nowhere, Derrick James just jumped in and put in his 2 cents. Nobody asked him anything. He just jumps in and put in his 2 cents to say that Teofimo became undisputed 2 times already. When this is totally incorrect. And it's not even factual. It's totally incorrect. Okay, because not only was Teofimo not undisputed 2 times, he was never even undisputed 1 time. He was unified at lightweight, not undisputed, and he just won the WBO belt at junior welterweight. He's not undisputed because when he fought Josh Taylor for the belt, Josh Taylor was, you know, he had dropped the belts and he only had one belt, the WBO. So technically, he didn't have those belts when he fought Teofimo. So technically, Teofimo is not undisputed and he's not listed as such in anywhere in any official listings. Okay, Teofimo is the lineal champion. Okay, but he's not undisputed. But again, as you can see, even when Derrick James is not being asked directly about Crawford, even when somebody else is asking about, saying something good about Crawford or something that might be good about Crawford, Derrick James have to jump in and say something negative. Okay, or try to say somebody else already did that. So for what, I don't know what it is again, but whatever, whatever. Anytime it comes to Crawford, Derrick James just can't be rational. He says something as silly as what he just said about Teofimo. I mean, he's a trainer. Derrick James should know better than that. He should know that Teofimo is not undisputed, 2 time undisputed. He knows that. But for some reason, when it comes to Crawford, he has to say something negative, and that's just Derrick James. So again, we're getting the wisdom of Derrick James. So I mean, it's a really an amazing thing to watch. But this is what we see in every instance when we talk about Derrick James and Terence Crawford. So again, I'm going to ask the question. With that kind of opinion of the opponent, how can Derrick James adequately prepare his fighter to face such a person as Terence Crawford when he can't even be rational about Crawford? He doesn't even watch Crawford. He doesn't watch boxing. It doesn't make any sense to me. But you know, let's continue.
I'll end it on this. The night of the fight, July 29th. What do you think will be the story of the fight? What do you think when it's all said and done is going to be like people are going to be saying, wow, talking about?
I think it's gonna be more like Hagler and Hearns than anything else. I think that
You think they're going to go at it right away?
they may try. I mean, I think that it could be 12. I'm gonna say it like this: if it's a 12-round fight, it could be like 9 rounds like that.
Jeez, wow.
After the filling out process, whatever, I think that it has the possibility to, be that type of fight. I mean, I think that, but I think at the same time, I think that Crawford's gonna try to box him. And you gotta, if you let, I always say, and this is what I say about anything in life. If you let an individual be themselves, they'll be phenomenal. If you let them be who they really are, they'll be phenomenal. So you have to do your best to disrupt them and throw them off and not let them be themselves. Because if you let them sit back and just watch you and pick you off, it's gonna be phenomenal. So you have to find a way to not let them be the individual, the great individual that they are. And that's with everything in life.
So
Football,
based on that, for Errol to be Errol, Errol's going to come right at him and just put the pressure on and have him feel that?
well, I don't know. I'm just saying is that even for Crawford has a way to not let Errol be himself. You know what I'm saying? And we have to find a way to not let Crawford be as great as he really is. I mean, so it's like it could be a back and forth. You know what I
Oh
mean?
my
It could
God. If
be
it's 9 rounds of back and forth, holy crap, man.
yeah.
Okay. So you saw what Derek James said. So he said that as a matter of fact, what was the thing that people said about the fight? This was one instance where Derek James actually said something that made a lot of sense. He said that you have to find a way to make the person not be who they are. because if they become who they are, then they're going to be phenomenal, right? So you're saying you got to take away what they have really and make them fight the way they're not used to fighting. So what was the thing that we saw after the fight with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford? What did people say? That was not the Errol that they knew. Everybody was saying that was a different Errol. That's not the same Errol that we saw against Danny Garcia. And that's not the same Errol we saw against Ugas. So at this juncture, it seems that Derek James was 100% correct in his analysis in that, Crawford took away, he made Spence not be, who he is. That's what Crawford did to Spence. Okay. This is what happened. And so what happened in this case was that, Spence couldn't be who he wanted to be because Crawford stopped him from doing that. So in this case, Derek James was right, even though, he's not saying anything negative or positive about Crawford. He's just making a statement, but the statement proved to be correct because what Crawford did was what Derek James thought could happen, for either guy, is that you make the guy not fight the way he fights. Don't let him be who he is. And so in the fight against Spence, Crawford made Errol Spence, fight a different fight than he usually fights. Or he fought the same fight, but he just didn't do him any good because Crawford took everything away from him. And so, this is what happened in the fight, and we all saw it was a one-sided fight, and it was a total demolition of Errol Spence by Terence Crawford. Now, so let's continue. Okay, we got one more thing to go. Let's continue.
All right, now Errol Spence, how's he doing? It's been about 3 weeks since the loss. How's he feeling
He's
right
doing
now?
good. He's okay, man. Things happen. Life happens. You know what I'm saying? Like you never really know. Everybody wants to win all the time. Some days not today, and then one is day.
Now, is he going to get the rematch with Terence?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
And you think he'll be victorious in that rematch?
I know he'll be.
You know he'll be.
Different situation, different way, everything. So yeah.
So some people are saying something was off with him that night. Was he sick or anything?
He looked very off to me, but I mean, doesn't take away from what happened to Terence.
Hold it right there. Okay, we're gonna stop right. Okay, so let's hold it right there. So Derek James is saying that that Crawford that Spence is going to win the rematch, and that it's going to be a different weight, different circumstances. It's going to be a different fight. How is it going to be different? We just saw that uh, you know uh, now again, Derek James didn't give Crawford any credit for what he did in this fight. Okay, he said he was just Spence just had a bad day, and those things happen, and that's just life. That's the way it is in life. But it was Derek James that we saw in the previous clip that said you got to take away what the person have so they're not who they are. And this is what Crawford did. But yet still, Derek James is not giving Crawford any credit whatsoever for the winning this fight. He's saying basically Spence just had a bad day. Okay, it wasn't anything that anybody else did. He just had a bad day. And not only that, he said he looked like he was kind of he looked a little off to him. Now wait a minute. Derek James is not outside the camp. Derek James is not me or you or some other people, that's from the outside looking in. What does it mean that he looked off? Is he just looking from the outside? He's inside the camp. He should know how Spence is looking. He should know what's going on with Spence because he's in the camp. So what do you mean by he looked off? What does that mean? Okay, that doesn't make any sense. He looked off. So you didn't know that he was off during this whole time, even though you said that in a previous video, Derek James talked about how Spence is looking ferocious, and he was breaking people's eye socket, ribs and bones and orbital bones, and that the camp was going great, and that they was doing all these training regimen, and that everything was looking great. But all of a sudden, after the fight, after Spence lost, now he's saying, "Oh, he didn't look right." So again, when it, again, people, Derek James, for whatever reason, just cannot be rational about uh, Terence Crawford. Anything that's said about Crawford, he just cannot be rational. And in that same interview you just saw, they asked him about Crawford, and he made he said no comment. As a matter of fact, let's go back to that. As a matter of fact, let's go back to that video clip and take a look at it again.
Crawford's victory. I mean, but that's okay. It's okay.
Right, it's okay. Yeah, because a lot of people were surprised by him getting knocked out. But is he still? You think he's a better boxer than Terence Crawford?
I think my guy's a better fighter altogether. I mean, things just happen. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Bad day, bad day.
So there you go. He's a better, according to Derek James, Spence is a better fighter than this is after the fight we're talking about now. You see the picture up there, right? So he's saying that Spence is a better fighter even after he just lost in such devastating fashion to Terence Crawford. So obviously, again, Derek James just cannot be rational when it comes to Terence Crawford for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I mean it's obvious from what you can see. So I'm not gonna keep you guys long. I think I made the point, about Derek James and Terence Crawford. Okay, and again, it doesn't seem like Derek James can be rational when it comes to Crawford. So I don't have much faith in the rematch, because if this is the way Derek James is going to approach the rematch, which is the same way he approached the first fight, then I don't really see any point for the rematch, because the same thing's going to happen again. Okay, so this is the way we are. So again, whatever the reason is with Derek James and he, not being able to be rational when it comes to Terence Crawford, it's a mystery to me, but it's definitely a fact, and you saw that for yourself. Okay, I gave you the receipts, you saw it all, so there's nothing to dispute about this situation. So we just basically listened for the last 30 minutes to the boxing knowledge and the boxing wisdom of Derek James, a man who proudly professed that he does not watch boxing, even though he's a boxing trainer. So, with that said, people, I'm going to leave it there. This is TBE Boxing saying, I'm out.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life before riches, huh? That life before riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glaze, you run up on me, I'ma make you get it.